Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Ron St. John. The dilemma of home foreclosures continues in America. Millions have lost, and millions are in the process of losing their treasured homes. Many who thought they were living the American dream by owning their own home have discovered for a number of reasons they could lose that home. There is help for those facing foreclosure, and we've got a lot of information for those of you who are this morning. Ellen Mitchel is joining us. Ellen is a licensed realtor and specialist in dealing with foreclosed properties. Ellen, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Ron. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Now, again, you are a CDPE. Explain to our listeners what that is.
Thank you. Certified Distressed Property Expert. That means that I specialize in assisting homeowners that may be facing foreclosure to make a graceful exit. Mm-hmm. I have ongoing training. I am an advanced CDPE, so I keep up to date with the latest changes, which are often daily in the housing market.
And we mentioned this before on previous programs. Ellen stops in about every 3 months or so to bring us up to date on what's going on with the housing problem in South Florida. And prior to, 4 or 5 years ago, as a realtor, the number of foreclosures you would handle would be how many?
None. Right.
The percentage you handle of your business now is?
Between foreclosures and short sales, it comprises about 70% of my business today.
So you had to change your business practice almost 180.
Absolutely. And it's really important that whoever you're dealing with is really educated on the constantly changing real estate market, because the rules of yesterday, last week, and last month can spin on a dime, and they do.
Steve Sachs is with us. Steve is an attorney with the Gilbert and Caddy. Is it in Hollywood, Steve?
Yes, we're located in downtown Hollywood on Harrison Street on Young Circle.
And prior to our recording, I asked you if you were a real estate attorney, but explain to us what you do at the law office.
Okay, I'm not a licensed attorney in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. I have a law degree. I've been in the real estate business for 25 years. I am a CPA, a certified public accountant. And I joined the law firm about 7 years ago, started getting involved in basic real estate, as Ellen had indicated. Mm-hmm. Prior to 4 or 5 years ago, the term short sale or foreclosure was foreign language basically down here. But, when the whole mortgage crisis hit and the economy turned, it's now an everyday thing down here in South Florida. Mm-hmm. Just about every real estate transaction now have issues that didn't exist many years ago. Issues with debt and liens and violations, and most homeowners today are underwater, and that's where your mortgage is more than what your property's worth.
It's a complicated process, either a short sale or a foreclosure, Ellen. And for people to do it, they really need as much help as they can get.
Yeah, there are a lot of options that are available to homeowners. The challenge that I find is that usually when someone is late on their mortgage, they really shut down. So they stop answering their phone, mm-hmm. They stop answering or opening mail that's coming from their lenders. And oftentimes the lenders are reaching out to the homeowners trying to provide options, but the homeowner is just so, kind of beaten down by that point that they're suspicious of anybody reaching out. There is a lot of fraud in South Florida, and so often they wind up doing nothing. And unfortunately, doing nothing is the worst thing that they can do, because if the bank does not hear from them, mm-hmm. they have no choice but to move forward with a foreclosure, although that is the last thing that the bank wants to do.
I know, because it is public knowledge that the banks are holding too many properties, and now they're almost, in fact they are forced to do something about it and make it easier for people not only to stay in their homes, but Steve had explained before we were recording, to be able to go through a short sale.
Absolutely. They do have options. The first option that usually a homeowner would want to take would be to contact their lender mm-hmm. and see if they could do a loan modification. Often they will be eligible for a loan modification if they're employed and if they're able to handle a reduced payment. Typically, the lender isn't going to reduce the amount of the loan, but they will lengthen the term of the loan and often reduce the interest rate so that it would bring the payment down. They can also do something called a forbearance, where they can suspend the person's mortgage payment for a period of time. But there are some people that may have gone through a divorce. They applied for the house with 2 incomes. Now they have 1 income. And under really no conditions would they be able to, to afford that home, even with a modification. They would be forced to make another decision. And the other decision could be doing nothing and waiting for foreclosure, which is the thing that I hate to see, the worst option. They could look at a short sale, which is where they owe more than the house is worth.
And that's an awful lot of people these days. If anybody bought a house within maybe the past 10 years, the percentage of those folks being underwater or owing more than the house is valued is huge, isn't it?
Absolutely. Just in the city of Hollywood alone, we've got 2,000 foreclosures in some state of the foreclosure process. 2,000 for a city like Hollywood, which is just a sample of, just an example of how all the other cities would be depending on size. The challenge of it is that people do have options. They can do a short sale oftentimes where they can sell the home for less than it's worth. They can sell the home for less than what they owe on it, and the bank will approve that short sale, and in some cases they will absolve the borrower from the debt. But it's a very complicated process. It is not something that anybody should go through alone. In fact, the federal government recognized that, and the home seller, the borrower, would have to list the home with a real estate agent in order to have a short sale done.
Steve, as we talk about a short sale, what's the legal advantage of a homeowner going through a short sale and being able to sell that house as opposed to having foreclosure?
Well, if the house is foreclosed upon, the number one fear is at some point, the sheriff's going to come and put these people out on the street.
Right.
A lot of homeowners, as Ellen mentioned, do nothing. They stick their head in the sand and they're just waiting and waiting. And we hear reports. Sometimes it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. But the day's coming.
And they're still in the house.
But the mindset of the homeowner when he knows he's finished, where he's done there, they're not maintaining the home. That goes into disrepair. The grass isn't getting cut. The landscaping's not being taken care of.
Sure.
And the house typically falls into terrible disrepair. Or in some circumstances, they actually vacate the home and they put a tenant in there, trying to at least earn some rental income for a while, and that just exacerbates the problem, makes it worse and worse. But the biggest issue with the foreclosure is it's going to be very difficult for that person to ever buy another home again and get a mortgage
or anything.
Well,
of size.
Right. It's going to destroy their credit, regardless of whether or not every other bill they have is being paid on time.
Right.
The foreclosure sticks out in nice big black and red letters, and it's incredibly difficult to sort of get around that. Even years down the road, a lender is going to look at that individual's credit report and they're going to see that. And even if their credit score has improved back up into the range where a lender would typically make a loan, they won't make a loan. I mean, typically it's going to be at least 3 years before a federally chartered institution is going to make a mortgage loan to an individual that's gone through a foreclosure. When the house is foreclosed upon, what happens there is, in most cases, the bank ends up with the property back.
Sure.
When at the end of the foreclosure process, the court sets a date for a sale, and there's actually an auction. But if a minimum dollar amount is not met, the bank actually gets possession of the property. When the bank gets possession of the property, whether it's one of the larger banks or one of the smaller banks, typically they've been warehousing the properties. And warehousing is, just holding them in inventory. If the banks released all of the foreclosed homes onto the market, it would put even more downward pressure on prices. So the banks are trying to control the inventory somewhat to try and add some stability to the housing market down here, because there are so many thousands and thousands of homes. The main advantage of doing a short sale is that if we can agree with the bank for them to take less, it's in the bank's interest to listen, because the short sale price is going to be greater than what they probably will ultimately sell the house if they ended up foreclosing. So it's in the bank's interest to consider the short sale if it's a bona fide, arm's length, legitimate sale. Another advantage for the borrower or the homeowner here would be, in many cases, the banks will waive any amounts that might still be due under their current mortgage. And that means, for example, if you owe $200,000 on your mortgage and the bank approves the sale for $100,000, there's a pretty good chance that that extra $100,000, maybe the bank will waive that deficiency and take the money they received from the sale as full and final payment. That's not the case every time. It depends on a case-by-case basis as to what the borrower's financial condition is, and there are other criteria there. But if you do nothing at all and just let the bank foreclose, they will absolutely get a deficiency judgment against you for the difference, and they will give it to a collection agency, and they will chase you until the date of your death.
Ellen, would there be any advantage to not do a short sale and just go ahead and foreclose?
Not that I can see.
None.
I don't see, credit-wise, it's a much worse thing. And I think even emotionally, the toll on the family, not knowing when that knock from the sheriff's office is going to come.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I have been there. I've been present at many, many lockouts where the sheriff comes and the contents of the home are moved to the street, and the locksmith is there to rekey the property, and that's the end. And you're looking at children's toys and family photos
on the street.
On the street, and with a short sale, they get to remain in the home. It really is run very much like a regular sale. They get to remain in the home until the day of closing. They are expected to maintain it, to cut the lawn, to keep the pool up, and then they can pack, and they have just more of a regular closing process, not such a crippling and devastating life circumstance.
Okay, example. Two-income family. My wife loses her job. We can't afford to make payments on the house. Do we call the bank first and say we just can't make payments? Will the bank say, well, do you want to do a short sale? Do you want to initiate that? Do we continue making payments on the house? What happens?
That's a great question, and it really is case by case. I do advise everybody to call the bank, and they'll probably want you to try to do a loan modification first.
Okay.
In most cases, they will ask that you apply for a loan modification first. If your loan modification is denied, they will probably recommend a short sale at that point. And then when you are looking at a short sale, you will need to contact a realtor, hopefully someone who specializes in short sales. I would also contact my accountant and find out what, if any, tax ramifications may apply, and get a professional working with you. And you can expect that professional, that realtor, to ask for 2 years tax returns, 3 months of bank statements. And in the situation that you just mentioned, that the wife had lost her job, you're going to write a hardship letter, and you're going to be explaining why you were able to afford the home at the time you purchased it, what event changed in the situation, the loss of an income, and how you can no longer afford the home. So the bank will be looking at all of, that package, and it's important that it's packaged correctly and submitted to the bank correctly, or the whole thing will be kicked back.
Steve, does a second mortgage complicate matters?
It can. I mean, sometimes the first and the second mortgage are both with the same bank, and that typically makes life easier.
Okay.
However, when there are two mortgages, you actually have to apply to both banks and get approvals from both lenders to accept way less money. And typically on a second, they're going to get pennies on the dollar. And it's, some people have a $100,000 or a $200,000 second mortgage. They may only get $5,000 or $10,000.
Oh my goodness. And then they are responsible for the remainder?
Well, it depends. It depends on again, case by case. I mean, typically, Ellen's firm, RE/MAX here in Hollywood, would enter into a sales contract and hand the file over to my firm, Gilbert & Caddy, at which point my firm would take the lead in negotiating with the lenders to try and get them to take less than what's fully owed. Now, obviously, when there are more than one loan, in some cases we've dealt with files where there are 3 loans on the property. Yeah. Then it's a process.
Ellen, are there any new programs, help from the government to help people avoid foreclosures and not have to go into a short sale?
There are. I think that Steve would be better served to speak about the HARP program, which there's the loan modification, and then there's the HARP program.
Now, Steve, before you get into that, I just read an article, CNN Money just the other day, something about the HARP program, and it said it just wasn't reaching enough people. It wasn't active enough or helping enough people.
Well, a lot of what's going on here, unfortunately, is election year politics too. I mean, obviously, the state of our economy is what's probably going to determine who the next president is. Mm-hmm. And, whether, whoever wins, whether it be Democrat or Republican, they have different views on how to fix things.
Right.
So a lot of what's coming out right now is just a lot of noise. I'm sorry to say it, but basically candidates are looking to gain support and votes. So when the government comes out with a lot of these so-called programs, it's a lot of talk, not a whole lot of action. There have been a lot of mandates that the government's come down with, especially the federal government, where they're not funding them. They're just talking about it. And unfortunately, most of these programs only do help a small portion of homeowners. However, the HARP program, the Home Affordable Refinance Program, was something that was initiated the end of last year, and it's really starting to get going now. And basically what this program does, as Ellen had mentioned earlier, the first step when someone thinks they're in trouble, before they run to sell the property or let it get foreclosed, the first step is obviously to see if they would qualify for a loan modification.
No, that's just through the lender.
Right, now through the lender. When the program first came out, you had to go to the original lender that had your loan and negotiate with them. As time has gone by, the program has become a lot more flexible, and there are alternatives within there. Basically, when you would apply for a mortgage, you would sit down with a mortgage broker or a loan officer at a bank, and they would take all your information, your name, your social security number, your job, how much you make, all of the stuff, and you'd have to go through the typical credit and mortgage process. Now with this HARP program, they've eliminated a lot of the qualifying things. They just want to make sure you're working. They're not looking at your income. They're going to look at your credit score. They're not really going to care about it. They want to make sure there's aren't any ugly things on there. So they've eased the requirements for getting the loan modification done, which helps because a lot of people in this bad economy are either unemployed or underemployed, which is more typical. And where Ellen mentioned, maybe one spouse lost a job or something like that, they're not looking at that. They're just making sure that these people are still reasonably creditworthy. And under these programs, they're actually reducing interest rate and getting payments down to hopefully where people can afford them. So that's the first line of defense here.
Ellen, these interest rates are so low. On some mortgages, they're less than half of what people have on their current mortgage.
Yes, I had actually shared with you prior to us going on air that I'm going to be applying for the HARP loan because my interest rate is, I think, 6.25%, and under the HARP, it could be, 3%. It depends. It depends daily. It changes daily.
And how long ago did you buy the home?
10 years. I bought my home 10 years ago, and I'm going to apply for the HARP, and if it cuts my interest rate in half, then I have the option. I'm 10 years into my loan. I could stretch it out again for 30 years to reduce it further, my payments further.
Right.
Or I could go into a 15-year loan, which would probably cost me less than what I'm paying on a 30-year loan right now because of the reduction in the interest rate. So it would make it, much more affordable for me, and I do want to, stay in my home, and I am current.
Are there occasions when a lender will not agree to a short sale?
Yes, there are. The lenders they really are looking for a verifiable hardship. And a hardship is not, my home is worth less than what I paid for it. I hear that a lot. Ellen, I want to sell my home. It's worth less than what I paid for it.
It's not that easy.
There are, surprisingly, they have just started to do strategic foreclosure, where some of the banks are actually starting to allow that. But that's a very new thing. Typically, you do need to have a verifiable hardship, an example being death, illness, loss of a job, forced job relocation, divorce. So there are many, many life circumstances that are verifiable hardships that the bank will take into consideration.
Yeah. There's one other major qualification beside the hardship, and that is that the price that we're looking to sell the house at fairly represents what current market value is as of today. For example, let's use the $200,000 mortgage example. If the house is only worth $100,000, and by listing the property through the multiple listing service, which Ellen has access to and every other realtor in South Florida does, if $100,000 is what the market is, then the proposed purchase price needs to be, within reach of that $100,000.
Right.
The house has to be offered for sale at current market, and there has to be a hardship. Those are the two basic criteria.
With a short sale, if the lender agrees, say you have you were buying a $300,000 home, you can't continue to make payments on it, period, because of hardship or something, and the bank you don't want to go into foreclosure. The bank says, okay, we'll short sale this house. Maybe it's a house that they can still get $225,000 for. The bank sells it as a short sale. The person who bought the home, who was paying on the mortgage, they're free and clear of that.
Now what you're talking about is they owed $300,000, the house sold for $225,000.
On a short sale.
Oftentimes, we're able to get the homeowner relieved of any deficiency judgment, meaning that they walk away clear. It is a case-by-case basis, which is why it's really important. I stress consulting with a professional, because there is not a one-size-fits-all answer.
So there could be still money owed.
Yeah, there could be. It depends on their individual financial situation. If the person selling the home has assets, perhaps the bank may want some of those assets to help offset some of that loss.
What's the advantage of someone who is in that situation, who says, this is so complicated, I need help, I need a lawyer like Steve to handle this? What's it going to cost somebody to have a lawyer handle this?
The policy at my firm is that we do not charge a fee for negotiating a short sale. Typically what we do is when we close the transaction, when the transaction, when the sale transaction is approved and the lenders typically will pay us an attorney's fee.
The bank does?
Yes, typically. And we've gotten it to the point, and we started doing these in the end of 2007, where when someone comes to us that they think they may have a short sale, we're able to screen the people right at the beginning. So we're not working on files that we think are not going to actually happen.
Yeah.
So we've got it down to a science, because we've done so many, we've done hundreds and hundreds. Matter of fact, I'm coming up on about 1,000 closings that I've performed short sales just since 2007. I know pretty much when someone walks in the door if they're going to qualify for a short sale. That being the case, we'll process the file. The lenders typically will pay our fee. We'll do a closing. Typically, the seller or the homeowner here does not have to come out of pocket to my firm at all. But they will be responsible for any utility payments that they haven't made. They still have to pay those. And if they live in a community, either in a condominium or in a homeowners association, they are still responsible for those fees as well, because typically the lenders will not pay those.
Will a short sale affect someone's credit at all?
It will.
It will.
Because what's going to happen is all the time, if they were not making payments, they're going to have delinquent payments on their credit report. Also, it'll often be shown on the credit report is settled for less than full amount. So it will definitely impact their credit, but it will not impact their credit to anywhere near
to the extent.
Thank you. Anywhere near the extent that a foreclosure would.
On the issue of credit score, as Ellen had mentioned, as you're not making your monthly mortgage payment, your score is getting clobbered every month, and it shows 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days, and all of that. However, once the short sale is completed, as Ellen mentioned, your credit report will show paid in full for less than full amount. That stops the bleeding, because at that point there's no more mortgage lates. The loan's gone. So what happens is, over time, provided the rest of your debts are being taken care of, your credit score slowly starts to get better and better, because now there's no more lates every month. And time is a great healer of credit, because the most recent stuff has the most weight. Another
one of the programs you had alerted me to, Ellen, was the HAFA program, H-A-F-A. This is another program. Is this to avoid foreclosure?
Yes, the HAFA program is for homeowners that it's not people that are investors are not eligible under the HAFA program. The HAFA program, the homeowner has to be in a home that is owned by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and they can apply for the HAFA program. The HAFA program gives the homeowners $3,000.
It changes on the lender. A lot of times the lenders run programs and incentive stuff. I've seen as much as $30,000 going back to homeowners.
Right. So in relocation funds to relocate, but I believe with HAFA the minimum is $3,000 in relocation funds, and the homeowner has the option in the beginning to apply to opt in for the HAFA program. We always suggest that they do. If they're not if they're not approved under the HAFA program, they can go to the regular short sale program. But with the HAFA program, one of the biggest advantages is that there is no deficiency judgment. It's not something that needs to be negotiated. Under the HAFA, there is no deficiency judgment, and they will get some relocation funds. The amounts will vary.
Also, to expand on what Ellen just said, the relocation funds, there are some requirements for that. They have to live in the house. They have to maintain the property in good condition. They can't let the house fall into disrepair. And basically what the bank's position is, they'll give them a minimum of $3,000 because it's in the bank's best interest that they don't have to, the bank doesn't have to send someone out to watch the property to make sure it's not vandalized or to cut the grass or take care of any of that sort of stuff. So it works for both the homeowner and the bank.
We've got about 3 or 4 minutes, and I want to talk about the event that you're going to be doing to help people with foreclosures and short sales. One question, if somebody's underwater on their mortgage, and they maybe are facing foreclosure, how do they apply for this HARP, H-A-R-P? How do they apply and get information on HAFA, H-A-F-A?
Okay, the first thing that they need to do is to contact their lender and apply for a loan modification. That's the first thing that most lenders will require. If they're denied for a loan modification, they need to find a realtor who is well-versed in short sales. It's very, very important. How the short sale process and the foreclosure process is very time sensitive. So you don't want to be dealing with an agent. You don't want to be their first client. You don't want to be learning, on their time, because it's important that everything is done properly. So they can look out in the community. They can look up on the cdpe.com website for someone who has the certification in their area. I also have a lot of information about short sales on my website, which is ellenhelpshomeowners.com. ellenhelpshomeowners.com. There's a lot of free information on that website that they can look at. Because I feel that so many people don't understand what their options are, we decided to partner with the City of Hollywood, with Chase, Wells, and Bank of America to offer a community outreach program in Hollywood. It'll be on April 18th from 6:30 to 9 p.m. at David Park Community Center. We're going to have a panel, as I said, with the big three, Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. I will be presenting for about 20 minutes. And then Heidi O'Sheehan, who is the commissioner for District 3, will be on hand and moderating the panel. So it's going to be an incredible event. There's no cost to attend the event.
Now, can people from anywhere attend, not just people in Hollywood?
Yes, absolutely.
Residents?
It is open for people of any community. There is no price to attend. The banks will be in attendance, and they will be on hand to schedule follow-up appointments with clients that need assistance. So it's a great opportunity for people to get out and hear from the banks, what options they have.
Can they get information just on your website? Give us your website again.
ellenhelpshomeowners.com. And I will post something regarding the upcoming event on that website.
Now, if somebody wanted to reach Steve Sachs for help with foreclosure, with help with a short sale, how do they do that, Steve?
Well, they can they can reach us at our website at www.thetitleattorneys.com, or they can call our firm at 954-620-5000. And we have our clients come in for a no-cost consultation.
Mm-hmm.
That's typically what we do. We spend as much time as we need to discuss the situation with them.
It's a complicated matter. Foreclosures, short sales. Hire an attorney, hire a realtor who is qualified, and that would be Ellen Mitchell, and that would be Steve Sachs. Thanks for your input. Good luck with the event, Ellen.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Much.